Congratulations on your profound contribution, Rabbi. We are forever in your debt.
Praise Adonai.
Praise Adonai.
The ceremony was glorious, teacher. Your acts of faithfulness and discernment have been duly recorded for all history.
Thank you, Shmuel. I'm grateful for your service as well.
Thank you.
I foresee you will be an important leader in our order for many years to come.
Maybe not just here in Capernaum, Rabbi. Perhaps I will one day teach across Judea. Maybe your reputation grows, so too do my own prospects.
I think it is perhaps bold to assume outcomes. Our work is for God. He chooses where it takes us.
You're right as always, Rabbi. But under your guidance, I've found a matter of law I'm deeply passionate about. One that resonates with many others, even as far away as Jerusalem.
I'm delighted to hear your fervor, Shmuel. Tell me, what is it you've become so passionate about?
False prophecy. When I heard the man from Nazareth tell the paralytic his sins were forgiven, I thought only God can forgive sins. At that very moment, he turned to me and recited my thoughts as if reading them from a scroll. I felt the same. Did he use divination, I wondered. But it's obvious. Of course I would think this thought. He called himself the Son of Man, as if from the prophet Daniel, here, in the town of my order.
It came from Nazareth, not heaven.
To him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him.
He's simply a man. I don't understand it anymore.
His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. The man claimed to be God, and you said nothing. I will petition Jerusalem, requesting permission to search the archives for all matters pertaining to such false prophecy. Will you oppose my petition, Rabbi? The question on the mind of every man who reads my account will have to be, what did Nicodemus do?
So, it's all about politics and promotion for you, isn't it? It's not to serve
On
God.
the contrary, teacher, it's about the law. And the law is God. If I'm rewarded for that, it's because I learned from the very wisest.
I will not oppose your petition. And, Shmuel, you have learned nothing from me.
Well, good morning, everyone. You hear me okay? Good. Good to be here. Good to have all of you here. We have some visitors today. We have coffee afterwards. Did you mention that, Shelley? Okay, so she mentioned it already. Come on back and join us for coffee and donuts. Like I say, good to have you here. Nice to see a kind of a full church. It's full for COVID, post-COVID. So that was something from The Chosen. And of course, this is our last week. And I have to tell you that, especially for those of you who have been joining us on Tuesday night, we have really had a lot of fun with this. So we've had this watch party where we've watched each episode, and then we've had a conversation afterwards. And those conversations have been just marvelous. We're going to continue to do that, even though we're done with The Chosen for right now. We're just finishing season 1, and we're going to go on starting next week with the book of Revelation. And I know we're going to talk about that right away, because I know when you hear that, you think, oh, that's scary stuff. And we'll unpack that next week. But if you'd like to join us for the conversation, we're doing that Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Be about 30 minutes or so, 40 minutes. Come join us. We're back in the youth room, and we'll make sure the door's open so you can get in. But for now, we are finishing up The Chosen. And this is the episode 8. And, if you watched the episode, then you know that the main event, and by the way, I'll just tell you that there's not one sermon in there. There's like 5 or 6 sermons in that one episode alone. But if you watch the episode, you will also know that the main event is the woman at the well, the story that Rick just read. And by the way, thank you for reading. But I wanted to show you this first. This was a conversation between Nicodemus, who we know, he's in the Bible, right? He appears 3 times in the Bible, all 3 times in the Gospel of John, and someone by the name of Shmuel. Shmuel is not a Bible character, but he represents everything that organized religion was during that time period, and what they believed and how they thought, and really how they treated people that did not conform to what they thought religion was. So he's representative of all of that. And, you know, like organized religion, even to this day, Shmuel's knowledge of his religious faith is very impressive. He can take a position or make a statement, and he can back it up with a list of Bible references as long as my arm. And he does it so well that no one could possibly argue with him. His religious judgments are absolutely, positively correct. And if you don't believe it, just ask him, because he can prove it. He can line up the Bible passages. The one you saw there was Daniel chapter 7, okay? But he doesn't have to stay there. He can go any place. He could probably find 5 or 6 more that supported his view that what Jesus was doing was false prophecy. And he could do it with everything else, too. He can do it with everyone else, no matter who they are. He could look at you and tell you, you're right, and this is why. And he can look at you and say, you're wrong, you don't belong, and this is why. And he does it so that you can't argue with him. He's absolutely, positively correct. And he's completely wrong. Because Shmuel has forgotten that God has a heart. I mean, he even does it with his own teacher, Nicodemus, the one who brought him to this place. I mean, Nicodemus, he bowls Nicodemus over with his knowledge. Nicodemus has no answer to it, except that Nicodemus reminds him that there's something larger than this. God is not the law. God loves. And the law is important, but not for the reasons that Shmuel has. Shmuel uses the law as a club to beat people down, and as a way to stand on the bodies of the people that he clubs down to make himself large. And that's what organized religion did in that day as well. It's just the way they worked. No. For God, the law is not a measuring stick, and it's not a club. The law is a promise and a pledge from God to us. Just take a look at something you probably know fairly well, the 10 Commandments. How do they start? Some of you could probably repeat it with me. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. I brought you out of slavery. Why? Because I love you. And then we go into the commandments. And you know what? What you're supposed to do is with each commandment, before you say the commandment, you are to say this. I am the Lord your God. I brought you out of slavery. I love you. You see, the commandments aren't coming down from above. They're coming up from beneath. The commandments are there because of a God who cares. Because of a God who loves. Because of a God not who judges, but who passionately, deeply wants you as his own. And he will do anything to make you his own. And Shmuel, who represents organized religion, for all of his knowledge and all of his ability to line up all the scriptures and all of his ways, that he is completely and perfectly correct, he is lost in his own hubris. Hopelessly lost, because he can't see it. And you know, I think that begs a question for us. What kind of church are we to be? Are we to be a church that's correct? Or are we to be a church that is an extension of God's heart? I'll let you think about that one. We'll sing for a minute.
I know that my Redeemer lives. What comfort his sweet sentence gives. He lives, who once was dead. He lives by ever living
Thanks again so much. Thank you, both of you, all three of you. And thanks to our tech team. These guys, they never get any acknowledgement. Let's show our appreciation. And you know, they're just growing exponentially. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 back there, and I think one you can't see back in the back room, sending it out to you guys so you can join us for worship. Oh, right there. Okay, so they're all right here today. Okay, I mentioned that scene from The Chosen and this whole idea that the church, the organized religion, is lost in its own hubris. I mentioned that for a reason. Because really, Shemiel and his perfect, correct interpretation of what the Bible has to say has made the woman in the well what she is. Okay? Let me say that again. Organized religion, being perfectly correct, has made her what she is. And let me also say this about The Chosen. This is one place where they sort of missed the boat. You know, no portrayal of Jesus is perfect, right? Except maybe mine. But this is one place where they really kind of missed the boat, because as it unfolds, that scene unfolds. And by the way, watch that scene. It's about 6 minutes long. It's towards the end. It takes the passage that Rick read, and I've never been able to get through that passage really well, because it always feels like it's just a bunch of religious mumbo jumbo when they start talking about worship on mountains and spirit and truth and this and that, and it just didn't ring with me until I saw this, exactly what was going on. And I'll tell you more about that a little bit later, so watch it. It's amazing. So where was I here? I got lost. That happens sometimes when you're just kind of I'm not winging it. When you have an outline, but it's over there. So the woman at the well, she was made by religious people and their correctness. And the reason The Chosen kind of doesn't quite get it right, is because they portray her as a woman who's had 5 husbands and now lives with someone who's not her husband, but it looks like she has made those choices. When in fact, in the first century, she doesn't have the ability to make those choices. In the first century, a woman had no choice in such matters whatsoever. Now, the man had all the choices. The man made all the decisions for the women. Okay, and so she's married to the first man. And the first man doesn't like something she does. And it's as small as, well, I don't like the seasoning she puts in the food. I don't like the way there's dust in the corners. And so he writes out a letter, he hands it to her, and he says, leave. That's it. She's done. And what's more is that once he hands her the letter, he has no obligation or any responsibility to support her in any way, and especially not financially. She's done. Now, she walks out the door. She can't go out and check the want ads. She can't get a job because it's illegal for women to work outside the home. And what's more is that if she were to try to talk to a man, which are the only people who can do work out there, it is forbidden for men to speak to any woman who is not a member of his family. Forbidden. So she is at the complete and total mercy of whoever will take her in. So she ends up with someone else. Same thing happens. Or maybe this guy dies. And then she ends up with his brother because the brother has a responsibility to produce an heir for the dead brother. Okay? Isn't this crazy? But this is the world. And all that woman is she's little more than property. In fact, in the marriage ceremony was quite simply this. It was just a half an hour ceremony, but then the festivities lasted for 7 days. So the father of the bride would have a procession with all kinds of family members over to the groom's house. And the bride was the centerpiece of that. But basically all he's doing is he's delivering goods. That's it. He's delivering his property to the groom. That's all it is. That's what the marriage celebration is in Judaism at that time, in first century Palestine. So this woman had very few choices. And the choices that she had was to either starve or go to whoever would take her so that she could survive. And it happened to her 5 times, and now she's with somebody who has taken her in, but he's not a husband. Isn't that depressing? Okay, now let's throw Shemiel into the mix and the Shemiels of the world. Because now he looks at her and he says, well, this isn't just bad luck. She has done something to offend God. She is a sinner. And now she has more than one husband, which makes her even more than a sinner. And on heaps the guilt and the condemnation and the judgment of the church. And she can go nowhere because no one will talk to her. She's there in the middle of the day because the other women who come early in the morning won't be seen with her. She is completely and totally lost and alone and by herself. Have you ever heard the term persona non grata? Non grata? It's a Latin term that we use around here, and it roughly translates unwanted person. Okay? That's what it roughly translates, and that's what it's come to mean. But if you take the word apart, persona is the mask that all of us wear. And it's what we show everybody else, or what everybody sees of us, right? But as you know, with a mask, there's always something behind the mask that no one sees. Okay? Grata. You ever heard the word grace? So non grata, this is a mask without grace. This is an unwanted mask. And behind that mask is a person who has known the pain and the sorrow and the heartache of rejection after rejection after rejection. I thought about this yesterday when I saw a note on Facebook from my friend Steve Rowe. Those of you who don't know Steve is the executive director of Beacon of Hope. He is It's the men's homeless shelter that we do quite a bit of work with. And by the way, in case you have not heard, they need people to prepare meals for them this month, right now. I mean, I saw a post a week ago from Steve, and literally 20 days in the month of August were uncovered. So if you want to prepare a meal, or you want to get together with 2 or 3 people and prepare a meal, you come see me. I will give you the phone number for Annette, and she will be very happy to talk to you. I know my family and I, we're going to do one. We have 2 or 3 other groups in the congregation. They're going to do one. Yep. And just because I called and oh yeah, absolutely. We want to. Can we do more than one? And that's what we need, folks, because these people are persona non gratas. Okay. But it gets worse than that. Let me read you this part of this post, and I have to clean it up because Steve's language is not for church sometimes. Okay. And I did clean it up. So, Lord help me, Jesus. I am very angry right now. I want to know why Beacon is a dump for unwanted human beings. Thursday, an older man in a wheelchair showed up. He was kicked out of a nursing home for drinking. Absolutely can't take care of himself. Zach had to help him on a bucket so he could go to the bathroom. We had to turn him away because we absolutely can't give him the care he needs. Also Thursday, a young man was dropped off from a mental facility in Denison because they did not want to deal with him. They dropped him off with no medication, someone who's mentally ill with no medication. The kid took off and returned the next morning completely eaten up by bed bugs. We got him all cleaned up and settled in, and by evening he was ready to have a meltdown. Pastor Eric took him to the hospital, but the kid walked out. I called the police to let them know that this mentally ill kid was on the streets. This morning, the young man showed up, and with the help of an advocate, his meds will be here before noon. Why are people who need this kind of help being sent to a homeless shelter? This month, we've had 2 men in wheelchairs, 2 men on dialysis, and other men waiting for appropriate housing, not to mention all the other mentally ill men who live with us. I am at the end of my rope. We are understaffed and not equipped to deal with these kinds of issues. This is really interesting. We also have to deal with all the jerks, had to clean that one up, who spread lies that all we do is house lazy drunks and drug addicts. Really. Walk in our shoes, you judgmental jerks. Had to clean that one up too. I get nasty letters from people putting us down. I have been accused of letting men die. I have been spit on and threatened to have my head beat in with a brick. I have been punched. So do I have a right to have a meltdown? Lord, help me, Jesus. That's what the story of the woman in the well is all about. It's about people with a mask that nobody wants. And behind that mask is pain and hurt and a sense of rejection so profound that they just know they're not worthy themselves. I think this is a good place to stop for a minute.
Is triumphant from the grave.
Okay, so now I think we're probably ready to talk about the story of the woman at the well. We've got the background now. Because I will tell you that if you've heard sermons on this story before, and I've been guilty of it myself, we start out heading in completely the wrong direction. We're talking about all the wrong things. I think today, for the first time in my career, I feel like I'm on a path that is more true to the story and true to what's going on. And so we meet Jesus, and you know, he approaches everything about this in a way that's completely different from all the rest of the world. Completely different. He shows up at the well at the heat of the day when he knows that there's not going to be anybody there to meet a persona non grata. He is forbidden to speak to a woman who is not a member of his family. Well, he's already messed that one up because he's fixed Mary Magdalene, right? And now here he is talking to this complete stranger. And he's a Jew, and she's a Samaritan. And I haven't even begun to unpack that one, but suffice it to say that the bad blood is so thick that these people would kill each other. Okay? He talks to her about water that never runs out. And she wonders, okay, so if you've got that kind of water, why do you need me? And then they get on the topic of worship. And she buys the party line, the religiously correct information that she has received from the scribes and the Pharisees and everybody else who says that the only place you can really worship God is Jerusalem. But guess what? She's not welcome there. She's a persona non grata. First, because she's a woman. Second, because of her living situation. And third, because she's a Samaritan. She doesn't belong. She can't even go to talk to the God who might be able to help her. But most of all, in terms of the way Jesus is different, he's different in the way he sees her, because he sees her. Everybody in the world sees her mask, and they find her unacceptable. He sees what's behind the mask, and the pain, and the hurt, and the rejection, and the way not only has she been humiliated, but the way she feels so unworthy. And he tells her things about herself that only she could know. And you know, at first, she thinks, well, this is just another holy man who's come here to condemn me. But then in the course of conversation, she realizes that this is not a holy man who's correct. This is a holy man with a heart. And the worship about which he speaks is not worship in a place, but worship of the heart. Worship that brings everything that's behind the mask and lays it at the feet of a loving Father who has already accepted her and already made her his own. I wish I could show you the whole 6.5 minutes. I'm going to show you about a minute of this video right now. Let's watch.
But you felt unworthy.
Why are you doing this?
I have not revealed myself to the public as the Messiah. You are the first. It would be good if you believed me.
You picked the wrong person.
I came to Samaria just to meet you. Do you think it's an accident that I'm here in the middle of the day?
I am rejected by others.
I know. But not by the Messiah.
And you know these things because you are the Christ. I'm going to tell everyone.
I was counting on it.
Spirit and truth.
Spirit and truth.
It won't be all about mountains or temples.
Soon, just the heart.
You promise.
I promise.
Don't you want to just stand up and cheer? It gets even better. You got to watch the end too. It's just such an upper, because, you know, unlike the rest of religion, Jesus shows us the true heart of God.
But you felt.
We get to watch it again. Okay, where was I? I got lost again. Thank you, Shelley. I appreciate that. It's okay. It's okay. So, persona non grata. And, you know, of all the people that Jesus could have come to, I mean, he has religious leaders. He has scribes. He has Pharisees. He could go to literally anyone of high standing and repute. And he could set it up in such a way that he would be praised the way Nicodemus is praised as teacher of teachers. Who does he go to? He goes to the woman who has an unwanted mask that no one else will even speak to. And he tells her first that he is the Christ. She says, "Why would you come to me? Everyone rejects me." He says, "I know. But I sought you out for that reason." And you know, as the story goes, she's going to go back home and she is going to tell the world what's happened and who she's met and how he is the Christ. And I can promise you this, that most of those people that she tells is only going to see the mask and will continue to reject her. But then there will be a few who will hear her story and it will touch what's behind their mask. And they will want to know more. And they will be drawn in. My friends, God doesn't create the church with a bunch of perfect masks. God creates the church with everything that's behind the mask. And he connects to us there, and he's counting on it, that you will connect with others in that same way. So all those people that Steve were working with down at Beacon, the homeless guy, the drunk, yeah, is it his fault? Oh yeah, it's his fault. Yeah, we can line up the Bible passages, right? The mentally ill. Those are the ones that Jesus comes to first. Not me. Not the morally right. I'm not that. But not that as well. He comes to people who behind the mask are lost and alone and hurting, and he touches them there. And so let me close by asking you that question again. What kind of church are we called to be? A church of being correct? Or a church that shares the heart of God?